Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg, and today I am doing the Book Never Written tag, which was created by Grix, etc. The premise of this tag is to describe a book or books that you wish someone else had written, or maybe a book that you wish you had written, and describe it. Now, I'm going to make a confession here. It's not really a confession because I have said it before. But in my 20s, I wanted to be a writer. And I spent a lot of time writing some short stories, sending them out for publication, and getting rejected. I attempted to write a novel or two that didn't really get finished. And then somewhere along the way, I turned 30, and that muse just dried up. And I quit physically trying to write. I kept thinking about books that I would like to write if, tomorrow was the right day to sit down and write them. Well, those tomorrows never arrived. I'm now approaching 60, and I have come to the conclusion that all the books I wanted to write in my youth will never be written. So today I'm going to describe the outline of a novel that I wanted to write at one time. The genesis of this book came around 2010. I had been working at home as a computer programmer, and the economy was not so good back then, and I got laid off. And so I thought, oh, what a great time to think about writing a book. And so I thought about this story, but not one word was ever written. Well, let me describe this book. It was called The Goner. It was going to feature a middle-aged man, about 46, maybe 48, very close to my own age. And a few years before, his wife, who had been very high up in a major company, had fallen in love with another man while on a business trip to Las Vegas. And this man was a grifter and a con, and he introduced her to not only extramarital affairs, but gambling and drugs. And this man, I'm going to call him Abe, even though I'd never settled on a name. Well, Abe's wife got into real serious trouble, and she had to clean out their savings accounts and all other liquid assets. She also dipped into the books at her office and had to go out on the lam. And I'm not sure if Abe is divorced at this point or if his wife is just missing, although she's been gone for a couple of years. And like me, he got laid off from his computer programming job. Now, he's unfortunate in some ways. He does own his house. When his wife was working and he was working, they had enough money to buy it. He still owns his house, but he's really cash poor at this point. So what he does is he takes a very low-paying job. He's working at a telemarketing company, and he is helping a young woman who's about 20 years younger than himself because she doesn't have a car, and she lives in the same town that he does, and he drives her to and from the job because otherwise she would not be able to work. Well, one night they arrive at work, and the boss pulls them all into a meeting and says, "We have outsourced this department overseas. This is your last day of work." And he lets them all go. Now, this young woman, let's call her Betty. Betty is even in worse financial shape than Abe. She has a young child. She is not married. And why he is driving her home from getting laid off, she breaks down in tears and confesses to him just how bad her financial situation is. And she basically makes him an offer. She says, if you give me a couple $100, I'll sleep with you. And there is some sexual attraction. She is young. She is not quite pretty. She's not unattractive, and he's tempted. But he just gives her the $100 or $200 and drops her off at home and says, I hope our lives get better. And then he goes to his own house and he notices that the front door of his house is open and his house has been ransacked. Now, he has a pet. I originally thought of it as a cat. Maybe it should be a dog. Well, anyway, we'll just leave it as a cat. This cat is named Kung Pao. It was a stray cat that he and his wife found quite a few years ago when they went out to a Chinese restaurant, and it was a stray. And they kept this cat. And this cat is quite elderly now. And he knows that this cat's time on this world is really coming close to being an end. And when he walks into this house, he notices a blood smear on the wall about 5 feet above the ground. And there's his cat, Kung Pao, lying in a bloody heap under this blood stain. The burglars had kicked the cat so hard that it flew against the wall and basically got crushed. He looks down, the cat remarkably still has a little bit of life in it. Well, he calls the police and he takes care of his cat by taking it to the vet. And the police will go, okay, yeah, we'll look into this. Well, the police detective, and I'm going to call her, let's say Carla. Carla is really not a very good police detective. She's living in a small town. I originally conceived of this town being on the outskirts of Seattle, somewhere around like Enumclaw. If you don't know the geography, it's really no issue. It's a very distant suburb of a major city. Well, anyway, this police detective, Carla, isn't the best police detective in the world, but she does get a clue from her teenage son. The detective is about Abe's age, and she's having a lot of problem with her son. He is about 13 years old. He's getting into the wrong crowd. He's experimenting with drugs and alcohol. And that includes some of the reasons why she's just not doing on her job very well. She's very concerned about her son. But her son says, oh, yeah, I know who robbed them. And it turned out that one of the robbers was the high school team's kicker. And this kicker had just gotten a scholarship to college on a football scholarship. Well, she goes in and she sort of muffs up the investigation and the paperwork, and the prosecuting attorney says, we really can't prosecute this crime. So what happens is Abe says, okay, he got free. And Abe really is not okay with that. So one night he calls up Betty and says, I want you to spend the night with me. I'll give you another $100. You don't have to do anything. You just have to say that I spent the night with you. And she agrees. Betty says, yeah, I need the money. I'll do that. So what Abe does, he gets a baklava. And one night he waits for this football player. We'll name him, what do we have, ABC? Dave. And so he waits in the bushes when Dave's walking home from some event. And in Abe's hand is like a sledgehammer. And he goes up to Dave and he just takes a swing at Dave's kicking knee and crushes it. And, Dave falls to the ground and grasping his knee. It's been shattered. And Dave walks away. Not Dave, Abe walks away. Well, Dave, even though he recognizes Abe, I'm not sure how he recognizes him, but he does. And so, he calls the police and says, this guy attacked me as revenge. Well, they go through it. And the police detective, I forgot what I called her again, Diane. No, Betty. And she investigates, well, Abe has this alibi. And so then she sort of knows something's going on. And the high school student's knee is, of course, ruined. He's going to be able to walk around with a limp, but his football career is over. His college scholarship is gone. So what Dave does one night is he waits until Abe is away. He breaks into the house again with a can of gasoline, and he sets Abe's house on fire. Walks away. Now, as I said, Abe's been having some real money troubles. He's cash poor, and even though he owns his own home, he didn't pay his homeowner's insurance because he figured, what could possibly happen to my house? Well, now his house is a smoldering ruin, and he can't get anything back. Now, depending on the time this is set, originally like 2010, I forgot how you communicate. Well, he starts taunting the football player, and he and the football player agree to meet up at an old abandoned warehouse to duke it out mano a mano. Now, Abe, he decides he's going to bring a gun to the fist fight. The football player, or ex-football player, decides he's going to bring a gun to the fist fight. And somehow or another, the police detective lady learns of this meeting. I think she learns it through her son again, because the football player talks to his friends talk to the high school, and he learns. So she decides she's going to go out to this meeting and settle this issue and arrest them both. And she goes out there alone at first. But then when she gets there and she notices them going into the warehouse, she decides she better call for backup. And she calls for backup. And then she goes into the warehouse. And a snafu occurs, and Abe shoots the police detective. He kills her. And the football player shoots at Abe and wings him. Not a lethal shot, but it's a flesh wound. And so Abe turns around and shoots a football player dead. So there's Abe. There's a dead police officer. There's a dead high school student, both killed by a gun that he bought. And in the distance, he hears the police sirens arriving and knows that he is a total goner. And that's how the book ends. I am never going to write this book. If someone else wants to write it, go ahead, be my guest. But I will not write it. Thank you for watching, and keep on reading.